in February this year. You may also see him play open mode and enjoys watching Key Sanity, I think probably for his sanity. Doesn't have any experience with the vanilla speedrun, but you may also find him running Super Mario Brothers 3. We noted that he wants to hopefully find the boots early on, doesn't want to see the cape. I'm in his camp. I like that idea.
Anyway, we have a start. Looks like Zunker forgot to start his timer, but that's probably fine.
Early on, Link's house, just a little bit of love. I'm wondering if there's a little bit of irony here in the selection of the Zelda sprite.
I don't know what you mean.
So the rule sets have changed a little bit over the last couple of tournaments. We have a bit of a difference this time around with the Uncle. Care to explain that?
Yeah, so Uncle can have any weapon that has the possibility of killing the 3 guards and the rat that are required to get through escape. There's a blue guard, 2 blue guards, a green guard, and the rat. If you get a bow, you'll get a full 30 bows, 30 arrows.
Yep,
yeah, if you get bombs, you will curse your life, because holy goodness, is that rat hard to kill with a bomb.
It becomes Bomberman, I don't know, 16-bit version?
Yeah, it's interesting. Some might call it fun. I wouldn't call it that. But you get a full 10 bombs.
Well, they have better luck this time, though. Thankfully, we have the Cane of Samaria, and this is going to make for a lot of interesting strategies here in Escape.
And as you saw, if you get the cane, you get a full magic drop, which is super useful. This is standard randomized swords. Uncle is guaranteed to have a weapon. I actually haven't seen it be a sword yet.
Though that is still possible. In any seed, not this one necessarily. This one is definitely Cane of Samaria.
Yeah.
But like we mentioned, you get full magic, so this is going to be pretty handy throughout the entire sequence here.
Yep, cane is one of the really good items you can get from this.
Now, I'm wondering if, because we have the cane early on, we get to see someone punt the cane block somewhere and do something funny with it.
Generally speaking, that requires, I think, some kind of boots.
You're absolutely right about that. So far, we haven't seen much of anything, though. We've got a little bit of health, a little bit of love. Our runners have not encountered much.
And that's to be expected. The big thing that you want to do, completely generally speaking, not everyone does this, is kill as many enemies as you reasonably can. The reason for that is what you really, really want is a bomb drop, because that makes... that allows you to do the 3 chests at the end of Escape.
Yep, just before they enter the Sanctuary. We had a couple different strategies used here. It looks like both of our runners opted to pick up pots to help kill the ball and chain guard. The Cane of Samaria is not strong, so this is a great backup strategy.
And notice I didn't note that the ball and chain guard as an enemy you need to be able to kill with whatever weapon you get. Often it's a very good idea to just kill that guy with pots. Pots do 3 damage, and that guy had 4 damage. And that guy has 8 health.
Throwing pots around is going to be great all game long. No matter what kind of equipment you have, even in Ganon's Tower, it's useful to throw pots to kill enemies, even some with more HP. So our runners will try to use that whenever they find themselves short on ammo for whatever type of weapon they're using.
Yep, absolutely. Green Hearts is a mod in the game. It's a customization. Just like we can have different sprites, you can have different colored hearts. I prefer blue myself, but it looks like SayaDawn likes green, which I cannot falter for. It looks great.
Yeah, the work that's gone into this randomizer over the years, there's been quite a lot of stuff that's come out every single month. I mean, if you think this looks great, just imagine where it's going to be in a year from now.
Absolutely. And this is the only thing that's strange about Standard, because you're not guaranteed to have the lantern early. You are given this light. This is the only light we're going to have in the entire game, though.
Yeah, this is a bit of a throwback to back when the logic actually allowed for you to have the free light cone in the light world. This would apply only to the escape sequence normally after some revisions, but this is the only mode today where that's the case.
And it
Well, it
looks
seems
like,
like we found some burritos.
yep. It looks like neither of our runners found a bomb drop in their escapades. That seems like it'd be difficult to say. However,
Their escape Escalade?
Escalade?
I don't have anything better. I was trying to fill space.
That's fine. There's that key, but it means they're going to have to pass up on this door right here.
Yep, and the only way for our runners to get back to this spot is to either go the long way through escape again, if they even can, but they'll probably come back here when they have the power glove so that they can get back into the grave.
Zunker really wants that bomb drop, though. It looks like.
But after about 6.5 minutes, SayaDawn picks up the Sanctuary chest. It has a Sanctuary heart piece, not quite the Sanctuary heart that we were hoping for. Meanwhile, we have almost nothing for progression throughout this escape, so our runners are going to have to make some hard choices here. Do they want to head east to try and figure out what that green pendant's going to give them, if they can hopefully find a bow? Or maybe we're going to head towards a more traditional route of Kakariko, and I think that's where both...
Zunker got an 8 bomb drop right at the end there, and cannot go back.
That'd be a great time for Amir.
Absolutely.
Looks like SayaDawn's trying to find something in that tree. I don't think the 80 rupees was the first choice, but it's definitely going to be handy if they're going to check the bottle merchant in Kakariko.
So, in case you don't know how the tree pool works, in the base game, the tree pool can be one of 3 things, either green rupees, blue rupees, or red rupees, depending on whether you've killed 1 enemy, 4 enemies while taking no damage, or 4 enemies while taking damage. In Randomizer, it's exactly the same, but it has been randomized, as you might imagine.
It's always nice when you get like 4 different drops of 8 bomb stacks.
Absolutely. I think the bombs or red rupees are what our runners are looking for.
Yeah, red rupees are definitely a good fallback. I mean, they may end up running into 300 here in the forest anyway, but, you know, it's definitely good to have it before you go into town. If nothing else, to buy bombs.
Yeah. It looks like the sword is what was on Lumberjack Ledge.
It was a sword upgrade.
Yep. That makes it likely that our runners might be finishing Aga 1, but not guaranteed. They may need to be doing Master Sword Ganon if they do not end up doing Aga 1.
Right, because then they would have to give up the time to actually, you know, kill Aghanim just to have a faster Ganon. It's a worse time loss if you can do the boss fight. We will also be looking out for a cape, because that would definitely lead us to Aghanim very quickly.
You do need a sword to do Aghanim, which is the important part. So we're not going to be swordless at the beginning of the game, fortunately, if Aghanim is required. Anyway, SayaDawn showing why those red rupees are very, very useful at the beginning of the game. She can go ahead and buy those 10 bombs and go directly into finishing Kakariko.
We need at least 3 bombs for the town itself, and we're definitely going to want a whole lot more later, so it's very good to find that 8-drop, or for Zunker to find that 8-drop.
There's ether. We can't use ether until we get to sword, but it's good to have. It'll be 3 or 4 bombs. We might need a bomb for the race game. The difference is because Zunker forgot to start his timer. Not a big deal. We'll just look at SayaDawn's timer to see where everyone is at.
Meantime, we get a well check here in the Kakariko village. We're going to see what we get out of this bomb and all of these 4 chests back here.
This is a lot of money coming out. That 300 drop and all of these 20s, very, very useful.
And a fire rod, wow.
Fire rod's one of those items that's a blessing and a curse, because if you have the fire rod, you can complete Mothula, technically. If you can get into the Dark World and you have a sword.
Looks like SayaDawn found the bee bottle, which is going to be very handy because we're going to go to the bug-catching kid, who's probably going to wonder how in the world we caught it without a net. What do you think of that trade? Bees for blueberries? We also want to note that Hera and Desert are both crystals, so we're definitely going to be coming back through here if we don't complete that during this Light World journey.
I'll go ahead and say I will take that trade every day of the week, especially if I'm at 7 bombs.
We had a couple of attempts at chicken clips, got one.
Looks like SayaDawn is slightly ahead leaving Kakariko, and that's just because Zunker got that 8-bomb drop and decided to go backwards. Probably. Relatively healthy seed. 3 extra hearts out of Kakariko is very, very good.
Definitely a good sign when you haven't had to enter a dungeon yet and you have at least a few extra hearts to spare.
Absolutely. I don't know what happened to my tongue, but I did not say any consonants in that word.
I know worries, happens to all of us. We have not had a lot to talk about, though. This has been a very uneventful seed so far. We've had very little to really kind of scratch our brains over. I mean, Fire Rod doesn't get us anywhere yet. Cane of Samaria, same thing, and we can't even use Ether. Interesting to see Zunker go after the big game, or the race game, without even checking the item. Will not be happy with what he finds.
I don't hate this play. There are a lot of items that could be required over the course of the game, and not being guaranteed a sword at the beginning means that you just really, really want to check everything pretty thoroughly if you really want that sword.
And there one is. SayaDawn just 13 and a half minutes into the game, finding the first sword in the dam.
So we have a sword, we have... So we are 3 items away from Dark World and only 2 items away from Aga.
I have a sneaking suspicion Light World Hype Cave is not going to be fruitful. I think it's going to be the Ice Rod Cave. But only because it costs time to check.
Yep. Let's see if either of our runners decide to go ahead and skip that. You are wrong, sir. That is bow, powder, a bottle. There was one more thing that I've already forgotten.
Well, now we're off to the races because there's a whole lot of things that we can do. We don't have a hammer yet to check the magic bat, but with the bow, we are definitely clear to enter and finish Eastern Palace, giving us access to the Sahasrahla item, since that is the green pendant.
Book was the fourth item that was in there. Goodness gracious.
And on top of that, we have desert access too. So it'll be interesting to see which dungeon these runners will try to opt for first, because it's pretty clear those are the two to look at.
I think it depends on how confident our runners are with dark rooms. There are more items in Eastern Palace, but you have to do 2 dark rooms, one of which is not particularly easy.
Looking at SayaDawn, we had a really rough death there, right in front of the Ice Rod Cave, so now it's extra costly to check it.
Those crabs are not nice, but it's not as costly as it could be. Honestly, Ice Rod Cave does take a little bit of time to get to, and it only has 1 item. I do see... Go ahead.
Those crabs are the only overworld enemy in the light world that does 2 hearts of damage.
So that's not quite true. They're the only overworld enemy that you can get to from the beginning of the game that does 2 hearts of damage.
Yeah, that's what I meant in the light world.
A bunch of enemies in Light World Death Mountain that do 2 hearts.
Ooh, we find the flute, the glove, and bomb upgrade. But I mean, the flute and the glove are really exciting. That's going to change a lot of different things that our runners are going to consider here.
So Quake was an Ice Rod Cave, and we don't know if that's a big deal at all. But it could mean a big time loss to SayaDawn if either of the medallion dungeons are Quake.
Well, we found the least useful medallions. Hopefully we'll find one that actually kills stuff.
I believe that turtles, when flipped upside down, are killed by all 3 medallions?
Yeah, they're pretty weak to Quake anyway. That's probably the best use for Quake against enemies.
Looks like both of our runners are opting to do Darkroom strats, which pretty standard.
Yeah, it's pretty forgiving in Eastern Palace. It gets a lot more difficult later on. One of the harder ones, well, some people say that Death Mountain's a free one, but if you're not familiar with it, it's really hard to bumble around in there.
Yeah, there are just random enemies ready to hurt you. That early flute drop for Saya is a saving grace for the fact that she skipped Ice Rod Cave.
Yeah, that's going to make it a lot easier to come back later. And then we're also going to check the right side of Eastern Palace. Unfortunately, we don't have the hook shot, so we don't get the fast strategy through there, but we will just walk around.
It just saves a screen. I would say that's 5 seconds or less, so not a huge deal.
Oh,
Certainly
but it feels
not...
good to get.
Oh yeah, absolutely.
With that big key in tow, we may actually end up skipping a chest or 2 because we may find all of the items available in this dungeon before we end up having to do the big old loop.
We can only hope.
And if not, we may see some of these runners gamble to try to go to the end of the dungeon first. I don't think that's going to be as likely with it being a pendant, but it does lead to another item.
Yep. Did we get a map check, or did we talk to Sahasrahla?
We've seen that it was green pendant here in Eastern Palace, and it's crystals 1 and 7 at Tower of Hera and Desert.
So we must have gotten a map check then. I do also hear the music and know that it's a pendant dungeon. Not that that's super useful, but it being green pendant, is that correct?
Yes, it is.
Yeah, it being green pendant means that they are highly incentivized to go ahead and finish it ASAP.
It just so happens that that cowboy likes to hide things under his hat, so you don't want to miss that one Sphere 1 or Sphere 2 item that, you didn't expect to find in there.
Yeah, I think it's Sphere 2 technically, because you do need to finish the dungeon, yeah.
It is very nice to get that bow early, though. That's going to give us a lot more utility throughout the rest of the run. There's a lot of bosses that are weak to arrows, particularly Lamolus, which we're going to probably see next, I think, if not Tower of Hera.
B strats to clear out this room. Completely fair.
Yo, the night vision B though. That's alright. I don't think anything will ever touch Parisian players' blindfold run of the game.
I need to watch that.
Meanwhile, it looks like we do have a divergence. It looks like SayaDawn is going after the back half. Or does that... Actually, did I see that wrong?
Nope.
Did they go to the back
They
half?
went to the same place. It's just they were
Okay.
having trouble with it.
Try to get a blind powder there, but that didn't pull off.
Yeah, Eastern Palace dark rooms are only easy if you can finish them very, very quickly, because those enemies get very difficult to track very quickly.
Interestingly enough, it looks like SayaDawn's going to take advantage of the, well, I guess the accidental save and quit death warp there to head back to Hyrule Castle to check this back half.
I don't think the save warp was accidental. The death was.
Yeah, that's what I meant. We didn't get much though. It looks like a shield on SayaDawn's side, and Zunker didn't find anything, so taking their leave from Eastern already. Looks like our runners want to go fast.
Yep. That was an interesting menu there, but they did get to the flute, and we're getting an almost synced flute activation here.
For those of you patriots in Hyrule, please stand for your national anthem.
Indeed.
And with that, the goose is loose. Play ball.
Indeed.
Look at that. We got a shovel up there.
Yep. And Sai going directly to Desert Palace. Well, sorry, both of our runners going to Desert Palace, but Saya deciding to start with Egina's Cave.
Yeah, I mean, you got the bombs, and, now that you have flute, it's not really a big time loss.
The question is doing it before or after this dungeon, because there's a good chance you'll be able to finish this dungeon. I do like SayaDawn
Wow.
doing this first. It's Moon Pro, which is a big deal. But I like doing Egina first, because if you can't finish the dungeon, you want to use both of the side entrances. One to get that get Egina's Cave, and one to do that shovel pickup.
Yeah, that right entrance does get you a lot closer to that cave. So, I mean, if you know you have the boots, for example, then yeah, it probably makes a lot more sense to finish Desert Palace first, because it is a little faster, routing-wise. But yeah, I mean, the gamble, if you don't have boots, it's probably a lot more sensible to go to Egina's. I agree. And some flips. Nice. So even if we didn't have the Power Glove, we would now have a route to Zora. I'm wondering if our runners are going to check that before or after they go to the Tower of Hera. They might do it later just to route it with the Quake Monster.
They don't have a mirror, so Hera's not open to them yet.
Ah, that's right. They will have we'll have at least one item on Death Mountain to check, depending on whether or not they can do the Dark Room to get the old man. Zunker demonstrating to us that we do have the hobo available. We're going to take a quick check of the island to see what's over there.
He might not even go to the hobo. He might... Nope, but he is. This is not multiplayer, it's a race. But it can be played multiplayer. You essentially are talking with another player, doing different areas of the game, figuring out where everything is. It's very, very fun. But that is not what this is.
No way. No way.
That is Dark World access, everyone.
Alright, so we had to go into desert to pick up the flippers, and now we have the Titan's Mid. I mean, this is a pretty convoluted seed already, and we've only seen 2 dungeons. Well, I mean, do you jump into Ice Palace at this point? All I'm saying is you have most of what you need for it.
No, you can't finish it. You need Hammer to finish Ice Palace.
Well, that's what I'm saying, though, is that there's a lot of items to potentially check. I mean, it's rough. I mean, that would be a heck of a gamble, but, you know, what if you found Hammer there? Like, I mean, our runners could be searching for hours for that.
And SayaDawn goes to the back without the... Oh, my goodness, she can finish this. All that is locked is the right side, which doesn't have the big key. I didn't even think of this.
Well, so we'll get to find out, I guess, if that actually has any meaning for us here, because, I mean, if, you know, Lamulus has the item, no big deal.
If Lamulus has the item, that's a big time save for SayaDawn, because she doesn't have to come back here.
Definitely good to revert to arrows here. It only takes 4 arrows for each Lamulus to go down.
And all of the Light World dungeon bosses take only 1 damage from fighter sword swipes, even if they're spins.
Zunker, unfortunately finding out that the exchange rate on flippers was not as good as he expected, ended up being just 20 rupees for his 500 investment. He might be looking for a new mining rig.
Indeed. The fish steals. So this is interesting thing I found out when I was learning NMG. This game, to attempt to have fewer sprites on the screen, does not allow multiple sprites that... Oh, and that's
no.
a death. Multiple projectile sprites in the air at the same time. Which means that if you know that, you can sort of time your arrow shots to make sure you never try to throw an arrow and can't.
That's actually a really great point. So if you're new to running this randomizer, it does not benefit you to mash the item button when you're using the bow. In fact, it's best to be as close to the enemy as possible because, like you mentioned, you know, Kemp's mentioned, only 1 arrow on screen at a time. Well, the desert ledge was a hoax. We got 5 roops out of it. Interestingly enough, though, SayaDawn choosing to head up to Death Mountain instead of finishing up Desert. I guess it's really a lot of opportunity to get it later. We have a lamp on Spectacle Rock, though. So there's a couple of options. SayaDawn may actually be trying to get a magic refill by finishing up the next boss that's available. Every time you kill a boss in this game, you're going to get a full health and magic refill, so that may make the Lamulus fight a little easier with Fire Rod instead of using arrows.
Absolutely.
Looks to be a little bit of last-second cleanup of the light world. I think we're going to see some dark world pretty soon.
That lamp on Spectacle Rock severely reduces the number of places that we can see the mirror.
Looks like Zunker's about to find that moon pearl though, without without any delay, because this is about the right time to find it. You need to get to the dark world soon.
Yeah, absolutely. And SayaDawn looks like she is going to be finding the Titan's Myths soon as well.
Well, if I had to take a guess myself, I feel like Village of Outcasts is the right next play. We could technically go to Dark Death Mountain, but it doesn't do really much for us here. Or no, actually,
we can't.
No,
we don't have the items to do it. We need Hookshot.
Either that or Hammer.
Or Hammer. I think if they can do it, not Swamp Palace, Skull Woods is probably a better play than Thieves Town, simply because they don't have the Hammer. But who wants to do Skull Woods with 7 hearts? Not me, certainly.
Certainly not with Fighter Sword either. That's going to be rough. So, I mean, that may actually be a good reason to do Thieves Town, because you don't get too much of an advantage from having Fighter Sword against Blind.
Yeah, Blind is, I think, the only boss that takes the same amount of damage from all sources that he takes damage.
Exactly.
The only upside to a better sword is longer, like, range and the ability to throw sword beams. Which is an upside, definitely.
You know, with that sword being in Lumberjack, I'm wondering if there will be a point where our runners are going to, let's just say they find the cape, where they're going to want to try and pick that up. You know, that might actually be worth the time sink if they can't find it elsewhere. And speaking of the cape, I could see our runners doing that if they find themselves frustrated with some of these bosses, because I think that's going to be the biggest challenge so far in this seed.
I assume Fulgor is referring to the length of the sword. Yeah, the fighter sword is shorter than all other swords, so... If you don't believe me, try to open the... or try to throw the switch. Oh, that is a big deal. That's all the items in here, too.
Yeah, so that's going to very drastically impact where our runners are going to head next, because Hammer opens up pretty much everything. Hard to say if that death was intentional. It didn't look like it, but Zunker may actually get some advantage out of this. Now can flute to pretty much anywhere without having to have the mirror.
Yeah, absolutely. When you said pretty much everything, you meant it. Goodness gracious. The only dungeon they can't enter right now is Misery Mire. I'm pretty sure every single other dungeon they can at least enter, if not finish right now. Swamp Palace they can't finish.
I mean, unless you can hover. I mean, you could still enter Misery Mire if you can hover. Oh, actually, you need the boots. Yeah, you can't even do that.
And you can't... is it possible to finish Argus without the hookshot?
No, I don't believe so. I think that's the only way to grab the 8 puffs.
Miss Metroid is right, of course. I cannot... You do need the mirror to enter Swamp Palace. My mistake.
That being said, I mean, that is almost everything. I mean, we have just a very small selection of things that aren't available to us right now. So that being said, I think we're about to start seeing our runners really start grinding out some of these dungeons. I don't believe we've had a map check yet here in the Dark World, though, so it'd be interesting to see what we have.
No, we have Ice Palace and Turtle Rock are our pendants, and Thieves Town and Misery Mire are our red crystals.
Ice Palace and Turtle Rock, huh?
You know, those 2 dungeons that we can basically finish right now?
Yeah, a little weird. Kind of a strange coincidence.
Version 29 would never do this. I'm kidding. Version 29 does this all the time. I don't know why, but it loves putting items in Pendant Turtle Rock.
Oof, grabbed on SayaDawn screen. That's rough. Got cornered by a Gibdo, and the floor master did not wait. Rybak and Chak asking us to identify ourselves. I'm Eudaimonistic.
And I am D2 Kemps.
Doesn't look like we're seeing much out of Thieves Town, and it's kind of gutsy to spend all the time to go to the back of it. Looks like we still need the dungeon anyway, though.
Yeah, it is a required dungeon. We have a hammer. There's no reason not to finish it now.
Pretty nice to have the powder here, too. I mean, there's a lot of very dangerous screens coming up ahead.
And a lot of anti-fairies that it's very easy to turn into fairies.
Now, if only we just had a net.
We have 2 bottles with nothing in them, if I'm correct. If
Maybe
I
like a
correctly.
bee in one of them or something, but yeah, we have nothing in them. Looks like we have SayaDawn checking the big key chest here in Skullwoods, and Zunker2therescue here is going to make their attempt through the Hellway, wisely choosing Cape, because this is a very dangerous hallway.
Yeah, it's called the Hellway for a reason.
And on the bright side, we won't need really any magic for this dungeon, so it's a good time to be using it. You're going to get a full refill with the boss anyway.
Did SayaDawn, like, she must have lost count with the number of items in this dungeon.
It's a pretty disorienting dungeon in general. Great to play when you're playing the no major glitches route, just because you can go right to the end of it. But, I mean, when you're playing Randomizer, there's so many entrances and exits that it's kind of hard to remember where you actually were.
Absolutely. So I was going to comment on the fact that I haven't seen very fruitful Skull Woods recently, and then this happened.
You know, that used to be the play.
Just a few, yeah, it used to be like that everything was in Skull Woods, and this seed is not proving me wrong.
Yeah, I mean, to find that hammer, that was pretty clutch. One of the things that, you know, really stands out about Skullwoods is it's very accessible. If you can get to the Dark World, you can pretty much get there. You know, provided you have the Kakariko portal or you have a hook shot to get across the bridge on the east side of the map. But, I mean, so because so many places, it's available to so many places, it matters really when in the seed everything gets distributed. I know Ganon's Tower has a certain exclusion pool. So these differences in the logic have really changed the meta, how our runners approach these dungeons.
And that full magic drop is going to allow Zunker to do this boss with Cape, which is going to make it significantly easier.
Yeah, and the backtrack for the fairy really isn't worth it here, so it's great that, you know, that backup strat exists, because otherwise, yeah, you pretty much have to have a perfect blind fight to avoid those fireballs. Fireballs do 100 damage, colliding or hugging blind in any way does 2.
And that includes Blind's heads. They do 2 damage as well.
Of course, you can get a perfect fight. It's not like it's impossible, but you know, if it's something you don't practice all the time, it's kind of easy to slip up with.
Absolutely.
Looks like Zunker wisely chose to undo the cape for a little bit because the magic wasn't going to last for the rest of the fight. And has a green potion. Very nice.
One thing you can do for this fight during this downtime is grab a wall, since you don't use any magic if you're grabbing a wall. I don't know why that is.
Holy smokes, that was close.
Close enough, though. Good job, Zunker.
Well, that's enough to get ourselves on the board finally with our first crystal 40-something minutes into the seed. We've done a lot of overworld exploration here, so it'll be interesting to see where we go next here. Looks like we're getting our last Village of Outcast checks. Now that we have the hammer and the Titansmiths, we can pick up the blacksmith. We just need that mirror so we can turn it in.
That's actually not true. The logic was updated a few logics ago to allow you to be required to save and quit with the frog to turn him in.
Then there should be an opportunity to check that. That would also be pretty well routed with checking the magic Batcave here.
Absolutely.
Pinocchio's got the boots!
Thank you, Woodman.
Well, now the run can start, right?
Yeah, indeed. Indeed. That's awful, and I love you for it.
Been waiting to break out the real puns for Rando community. You guys have a little bit better humor.
Indeed.
Well, not only that, but we have the opportunity to do all the fun time-saving tricks, too. I'll be able to explain some of those as we cover them, but we'll be using item dashes a lot in this run, hopefully.
It's a relatively easy trick. It's one of the first things that I suggest people learn how to do when they're learning the game. Item dashes and Ice Palace Bomb Jump.
And there you have it, exactly like you told me before. We are going to get an opportunity to see a save and quit to turn in this blacksmith.
It looks like he's going to go ahead and go to the hammer pegs before turning in the blacksmith, though. Which is fine. It is very, very possible, even likely, that the mirror could be on these pegs.
Wouldn't that be a trip? Here we have Zunker2therescue attempting a item dash. So how this works is you're going to press the item and the dash button at the same exact frame. If you do that, and this comes from back in the original game's Japanese 1.0 version, it allows Link to use the item and dash at the same time. Very handy with the hammer, but you'll see it used with the hook shot to get a fast state called super speed.
Nothing super useful here, unfortunately. But Zunker gonna save and quit and turn in the frog. The only downside to this frog is you cannot enter dungeons while you have him.
Yes, because you can't actually have the blacksmith stop following you, so you don't really have a choice as you would with the purple chest.
So what actually happens, unlike in the base game, is the blacksmith sort of like pokes you and said, "Hey, don't bring me in here."
But props to the Rando community devs who have tried to unpack this game. You may not see it on the surface, but this game, the original base game, is broken beyond all belief. So it's amazing to see what we've been able to put together here. You know, I didn't know he was actually a bombsmith. Pardon me, I should correct myself here.
How do you smith a bomb? Isn't there, like, fire everywhere?
It's hard to say. I mean, I can't tell if they were, like, smacking on a fuse in there. They were doing something.
Whatever it is, I don't trust it, and I don't like it.
It almost makes me wonder why they only charge you 10 rupees to get a better sword. I mean, for the amount of value you get out of that, holy smokes.
I mean, you also did save someone in a parallel universe, to be fair. The fact that they charge you anything at all is a little weird.
Fair enough. That makes sense to me. We also have a blind fight out of SayaDawn's side. Looks to be a pretty standard start to it. The key thing that you want to do with this fight is you want to hit the heads as soon as it's physically possible to do so. This makes the fight very predictable, and that's why people say it's scripted.
Very
wrap up, though.
Very clean kill from SayaDawn. Or Dawn, excuse me.
Now, Zunker didn't have the advantage that SayaDawn had walking through desert. Zunker is going to take the time to explore all of desert here now that they have the small key to check with the bonk torch.
Right.
Now, we will get to find out if that item's there, though, because we didn't see the end of Lamolus.
Looks like SayaDawn going to go ahead and turn in the frog as well. Zunker is setting up a death warp because it is faster to do that than it is to just walk to the end. And he saw both items in here, so decided not to check the big key chest, which is smart. The first item being the flippers earlier.
Yep, so we have pretty much everything we need here. Zunker may end up being led astray at some point in the near future with that shovel that's on Desert Ledge, but I have to think we're probably going to see the end of Lamolus here.
We can only hope so, yeah.
Looks like SayaDawn's taking the around-the-world approach for the blacksmith.
Yeah, they're not going to be able to check this on the way, so it does make a lot of sense to go ahead and check this, since they just did save and quit.
So as we find more and more of these items, we're still looking at a pretty big space open in the inventory, particularly the mirror. Where do you think we're going to find it?
Well, we know it's not behind a dark room. So I am going to guess it's an ice palace.
That would be such a sick, cruel, and unusual joke.
And
I
something
love it.
version 29 loves to do.
So then my question is, would you mirror immediately upon finding it?
It depends on how many items I'd found already. It depends on so many factors, honestly.
Oh, but Zunker here almost got a one cycle with a fire rod. Missed just one shot in the short hop. I'm hoping he was hungry because a burrito is all he got for that one.
Well, he already got the items out of here. He knew he wasn't getting anything else other than this sweet, sweet crystal. I'm sure it tastes like sugar. So sweet.
Does make you wonder what those are made of.
They're made of maidens, as well. You should know from the base game.
Ouch. Yeah, I guess. Well, I can't use my your princess is in another crystal joke here.
She actually was in that crystal, wasn't she? That was
Yes,
7?
in Turtle Rock. Looks like we are going to get to see Hype Cave here.
Let's see how actually hype it is. Zunker talking to that guy from the top as opposed to the bottom allows you to get into the door faster because the bomb explodes while you're sitting there, and you can't be hurt by the bomb explosion while you're talking to that guy.
Yep, it saves you a few frames from having to walk around him after the bomb. Definitely a nice little optimization there. Well, so I think we can do Palace of Darkness at this point. Without the mirror, it kind of stinks, but we can definitely do it.
We can do Palace of Darkness. We can do Mire, which is even worse without the lantern. Looks like Zunker didn't pick up the purple chest. We'll see if SayaDawn gets rewarded for this.
That would be a brutal place to end up having the mirror or something like that. You know, just having to double back for that later would be really bad.
I think that might be the worst overworld location I can think of to have the mirror in that purple chest. It might feel like Turtle Rock is always required, but I have seen a fair share of seeds where Turtle Rock had nothing.
And that's the frustrating thing too, is if you're missing like Ice Rod or just one really obscure item and you're hoping on Turtle Rock, like to check all of Laser Bridge and get nothing, very frustrating.
Absolutely.
Well, what does our friend the thief in the desert have? Just a little bit of love.
He has peace of mind, because SayaDawn does not have to go back and check that. I did not know that guy talked.
Oh yeah, the rabbit. Well, I mean, it has like a Japanese transcription too, but you don't normally dash into it that way. That's definitely a randomizer edition, the translation there. But apparently, he was in such a hurry, he just wanted to run him right over. Quake Monster though has her sword upgrade.
Thank you, Catfish.
Well, now that our Master Sword is in play, it's kind of interesting to see whether or not they really want that tempered, or if they're going to wait until right before they head up to, say, like Gan's Tower, because they don't have to do Turtle Rock. I guess we'll get to see whether our runners feel confident in their Ganon fight.
Yep. That is a pretty significant time sink if you want to get that tempered. But if you're going to get it, I think you want to get it ASAP, to be honest.
Absolutely. The time save in virtually every dungeon is huge. Swamp in particular, you're going to find that against Argus, where each puffball is going to take 2 swipes as opposed to the one you have from Tempered. So it's I would personally get it pretty soon, but you might want to clear the dungeons you can first. One thing that could happen for our runners is they could find the 4th sword upgrade before they would even bother to get the 3rd one, so that could be a gamble worth making.
Yep. I think the big thing our runners are looking for is that mirror. Mirror gives them the lantern, which allows Mire to be easily completable. Those dark rooms are no joke in the dark.
And then, of course, the mirror also for Swamp, which we're going to have to clear out anyway. So that's going to be our win condition here to get to go mode. Both the hook shot and the mirror, it looks like. And we'll obviously have lamp, so we'll be in no mode.
Indeed. Everyone's favorite extortionist, Kiki the monkey, paying out.
You know, but I mean, like, you gotta pay 10 rupees to get him to follow you on Instagram, but he runs at the first sign of trouble.
You gotta pay those hospital bills, man.
Here in the back half of Skull Woods, we have a key. So we have pretty much every key in Skull Woods right now. That's not going to be too useful.
Zunker deciding to go the back way, which I do like this. You're going to have to do this anyway. This skips a key and ensures that you will be able to check the big key chest in one go.
I'd say the Palace of Darkness is one of the largest divergences from the base game when it comes to routing. Normally you would never see this in NMG at all.
Well, you do basically 0 of this dungeon in NMG.
It's so fast. I love it. Of course, you also have a little bit less health to fight Helmasaur King with and a lot less equipment, so our runners are going to be abusing that to a severe degree, having both the cape to work with if they got dodge shots, and also just the extra health. Well, Zunker's gambit seems to have paid off. He has the big key already.
Believe
SayaDawn
there's
real
any...
close. Ouch. Well, with that Mothula death, it's not a huge time loss to go back through, but it remains to be seen whether or not SayaDawn's going to attempt to do another refight. I think we're looking to do the save and quit here instead.
I am a little confused why Zunker skipped the big key chest here.
Yeah, that wasn't really necessary. Well, we don't have the mirror, so I'm wondering if that's to prevent having to go the long way around before having checked this one.
He's probably going to pass that chest on the way to go into the back anyway.
Yeah, that's also true. So yeah, there wouldn't really be a reason to skip it. But for how many things there are to check in this dungeon, I'm not surprised if anybody goes a weird way. To be honest with you, there's just too much to even think about. Hey, look at that!
That's a hook shot. We're waiting on a mirror.
Well, so Hookshot does give us East Death Mountain, Light and Dark World, so that may end up being the place we find it.
Or as I'd like to say, we're looking for a miracle.
10 out of 10, I approve. In the meantime, though, Zunker, before doing any of that news or any of that noise, is going to immediately demolish Helmasaur King. Had a weird thing with the crystal switch there, but managed to get through.
He might. There's still 2 more locations the mirror can be in this dungeon. I can see that chat very much loves puns. We should layer as many on as we can.
All right, I'm gonna pontificate a little bit more on that one. I think this is probably the most frustrating dark room in my opinion. It's not difficult, I just always miss the chest.
You're allowed to think that. I cannot imagine a worse dark room than the turtle room.
You could probably do it by muscle memory. I don't know. I gotta boot up the practice hack to try that sometime. Although at that point, I guess this one's probably a muscle memory room as well. Remains to be seen what we end up getting out of these chests, though. Could it be mirror? We wouldn't know yet.
It can't be mirror.
Oh, right, because you need the lamp. You're right.
It looks like Zunker hasn't realized that.
I don't see anything of value yet, so I don't think we got anything out of that.
Probably bombs, honestly.
In the meantime, SayaDawn actually catching a lot of steam here. I mean, we're behind Desert Palace, but that's not a slow finish, particularly if you find something like Silvers or Half Magic. We did get some fancy routing out of SayaDawn there, picking up that key chest by doing a bonk against the edge to the north. Mirror can technically be in Turtle Rock at this point, though.
That was almost a bomb jump with no pause buffering, which I think it was a pixel off.
One of the weird things about bufferless hammer jumps, since you're bringing that up, that's actually a really interesting subject. A lot of newer runners for the NMG category actually start with doing it bufferless because it's actually kind of hard to get used to using pause buffers if you've never done it for like any game ever. You're only giving yourself a one frame window, so if that's kind of hard to do, sometimes while it's less consistent, people actually prefer to learn bufferless first.
I guess that makes sense.
That's actually the way I did it, but like everybody else I've talked to like swears that pause buffering's the way. And as long as you don't do 30 of them, you're gonna save time.
You can cheese the eastern room by swiping your sword, which causes you to hold up, and throw arrows until your arrow sticks into the Igor. Move forward and back, and the arrow sticking in your Igor, you'll see it, and when it moves down, you can hit the arrow to hit the Igor again.
Get a really nice bomb jump out of Zunker here to cross the gap and save a little bit of time heading up to the top. SayaDawn has very low health here. Really can't afford to take any damage whatsoever.
That's unfortunate.
Thankfully, they are very close to the entrance, so we're not going to see a whole huge time loss. It almost might have been a better idea just to take a faster death warp. And a sword upgrade! Would you look at that? We have the Hot Cheeto sword, folks, and we now know where all of the swords are.
We might see an Aga play if SayaDawn never goes to Catfish and really wants that tempered sword. But I think it's pretty unlikely. I would say Zunker has a pretty a pretty big lead right now. He's just mirror away from go mode.
Is definitely expanded that lead by finding the last few items. That tempered sword is going to pretty much make Aghanim irrelevant. I mean, some people might not want to do Ganon at all unless they have everything, but in a race setting, I mean, getting the tempered sword is definitely, you know, your security item. You want to have that. It's almost like your security blanket. But with that, we have a Tower of Hera play. And then, of course, there's obviously a 1 crystal advantage for Zunker as well.
Yep.
Shoutouts to First Chest Big Key.
So let's say that the item in here is in the basement. There's an item in the basement. Do you go check it? Because it's a long walk without if it's not the mirror. And I think you really want to check Spike Cave while you're here.
Well, there's 2 reasons why I do, and I'm glad you asked this question. 1, it's about an hour into the run, so it's a great time for a coffee break. And 2, I have everything I need to do it, so I mean, I would definitely do it, but only if I can set up the Death Warp, or else it feels kind of wasteful to walk all the way back. Well, I suppose you could save and quit out of this dungeon, though, pretty well.
Well, you want a Death Warp so you can do the Spike Cave.
Yeah, exactly. But on the bright side, SayaDawn is finding that tempered sword, so the equipment advantage is shrinking again. Zunker did find the Cane of Burna as well, so we're pretty much on par there. Our runners are relatively close together, closer than I probably would have expected, but Zunker does still have that 1 crystal advantage.
Yeah, the advantage that Zunker has is very slight. That's both items out of here, though.
So the basement is irrelevant today.
Yep.
But there is still a lot of Death Mountain to check here, so our runners will be here for a little bit.
They had the book right at the beginning, didn't they?
Yeah, very
completely
early,
forgot
so this
that.
is a long time coming at this point. They couldn't get here until they had the hook shot, though. Well, Ether, what do you have for us today? Not quite Bombos, but kind of close.
It's bomb. Oh. That's not even close to good. Oh, right, and they want to check the rest of Death Mountain, so probably not wanting to check Spike Cave here.
I mean, that being said, though, they definitely still need to, so it would be very neglectful to miss it here while they're on the mountain.
Yeah, they'll probably go do Hookshot Cave, and then from Hookshot Cave go and do Spike Cave.
Yeah, that's going to be the best routing around the mountain. Now, if that ends up being the mirror, then that's kind of a big time sink for both runners, so no big advantages here at the moment. Still not seeing a lot. That Ice Palace is really calling that mirror's name at this point.
Ice Palace or Turtle Rock. We can get into Turtle Rock, almost certainly. The only thing is if it's Bombos.
In which case, our Ether tablet didn't really help us out there at all.
I mean, none of our medallions Wait, we do know what Mire is, and I cannot remember it for the life of me. Wait, do we know what Mire is?
I don't believe we visited Mire area yet, so actually that is potentially something to check as well. Mirror could be in the hut just west of Misery Mire.
Or, I mean, as always, we go on pedestal check. Mirror can be on pedestal. No, it can't! It can't be on pedestal. Mirror cannot be on pedestal. Pedestal is dead.
I'm trying to think which pendant is blocking that.
Eastern and Turtle Rock both require both have a dark room.
Yep. Yeah, so pedestal for required here is not looking too favorable. We could have silvers or something over there, though.
I think silvers is the only item that can be there at this point.
Zunker seems to have shot himself in the foot a couple times here with these blocks. It's kind of weird when you're used to having mirror through there.
Yep.
And Risotto and Chad mentioning that we do have a mushroom still out there, so that can be the dirty dug-up mirror, or it could instead... Oh, no, I'm sorry, the potion shop mirror.
No, yeah, SayaDawn turned that in. It was $20.
Man, the seed is not forgiving to our runners today.
Speaking of $20,
we're getting a lot of hollers here in this seed, but not a whole lot of mirrors. Well, so we do have boots. We have a couple places we can check with that. There's the King's Tomb. We do have Bonk Rocks. Looks like we're going to get that Misery Mire area check.
that was Ether, it looked like, for the moment that SayaDawn peaked there. For Mire.
I'm sorry, did you say it was Ether?
Ether, and Quake for Total Rock.
And our hut only has love.
And Zunker going ahead and checking Spike Cave, looks like.
Meanwhile, now that we have boots and hookshot, no better time to go to see what's in Misery Mire. Looks like we have pretty much everything we need for this, so you can finish it. Vitreous will be a little difficult with that level 2 sword. Did we? I don't think SayaDawn got the Tempered Sword, did?
Nope, she did not. The big thing that's going to be difficult is that dark room. Vitreous is hard. That dark room is damn near impossible. Unless you have practiced it a bunch.
Looks like Zunker there taking the death to get a save and quit.
He did not finish Spike Cave, unfortunately.
But it looks like we're thinking about the boots, have boots on the mind, figuring out where to go with them. Here in King's Tomb, let's see what we got. Just a funny man named Benjamin.
I mean, it is all about the Benjamins.
Absolutely.
What if it was all about the Benjamins? What if, like, just people named Benjamin ruled the world?
Well, I mean, I hear one or two of them are really good in this tournament.
Indeed. What is that, Ben Teasy and Ajnab?
Absolutely. Actually, I've been watching Ben do the NMG races, so that'd be fun to see. But these runners have a bit of a wall up that they're running up against. I mean, where is this mirror? I'm pretty sure at this point we actually are going to find it in Ice Palace.
I think if SayaDawn finds it in here, that's gonna give her a huge advantage. I assume if she finds Mirror here, she would leave immediately to go get that.
The lamp, yeah.
The lamp, yeah.
And that would put SayaDawn in the lead. Whoever's going to find it first really is in the lead, because, I mean, we're looking at one crystal, well, I guess Tower of Hera, so it might be enough. It depends on how long it will take the other runner to find it. Unfortunately for SayaDawn, it has to check all of the dungeons, so this is a bit of a time sink. We get to see a fun trick out of SayaDawn there. If you're pushing those blocks, they actually turn into a sprite for while they're in motion, and they don't have any collisions, so you can actually use hook shots and fire rods through them while they're in motion.
Yep.
Well, while our runners are going through a little bit of a collectathon here, I want to take a moment to remind everybody, hey, if you like what you're watching, if you like what you're seeing, please follow these runners. These runners are doing their first race of the tournament. This is week 1. We're going to have 7 straight weeks of Swiss rounds. And then from there, we narrow it down to the elimination bracket. So there's a lot more content from these two to see. Give them a follow.
You need magic, Zunker.
Yo, but the rando RNG being great to give him a blue bottle.
No, he just bought potions. And for some reason didn't buy a green potion on his way.
Yeah, that's definitely something to note. If you have empty anything walking into the potion shop and all these rupees like these runners do, absolutely just fill up a green potion or a blue potion, drink it, and then fill it up again.
You can talk to the potion shop potion cashier, I guess, is what he is.
I don't know, the apprentice wish.
And they'll give you a sip of red potion, so you only need the green potion.
And for free. You wonder how they even sell any. Zunker here having a little bit of difficulty with the Mire room. It's really nice to have in Mire 2 to have sword beams for that fight, because then you can get a lot of those whiz ropes from distance.
I think the speedrun uses fire rod for that?
It's a good backup strat, so if you want to cover that distance and you don't have full health, that's how you'd do it. A lot of people will route it, though, so they have full health coming into this dungeon for exactly that room. Literally nothing else matters in this dungeon for that reason.
SayaDawn doing the dark room.
What a gutsy play. This is going to be interesting to see. Now, this can't lead to the mirror, though, so what in the world are we going to find back here?
The upside is... Sorry, the downside is it can't lead to the mirror. The upside is you don't have to double dip this dungeon.
That is a good point. It's very time-intensive to get into the dungeon. That Mire 2 room that we were talking about before can go wrong and definitely take a lot of extra time. So, yeah, that's a smart reason to. Looks like we're going to opt to save and quit out of here, though. That's a room that you don't want to spend forever being frustrated at.
Especially if you know where the lantern is. And in this case, the fact that our runners know for a fact that they will need that lantern, or they will get that lantern as part of progression.
Also, this is interesting. Do you think that SayaDawn is doing a Turtle Rock play here, or a Cane of Burna cave play here?
If she was doing Cane of Burna cave, she would have gone up the other stairs. It's got to be Turtle Rock here.
Well, rip run if it's not T-Rock.
Well, the thing is, it's a choice between Turtle Rock and Ice Palace, basically.
And the go mode is so much more valuable in Ice Palace. So yeah, I mean, I agree with this play. It's just, it's gonna really stink if they don't find it by Laser Bridge.
Well, here's the thing. No, never mind. Yeah.
The other complication, of course, is that this is a pendant dungeon, so we don't really need the ice rod. It's not going to matter whatsoever. But then again, maybe Trinex has that item. That would be the worst possible scenario.
Yep. Looks like they're doing Hera first, actually, because they haven't done it yet.
I have this weird sneaking suspicion it's going to be Chomp's room.
Is it because that room is so hateful? Why not make it more hateful?
I have found it there. I've also found Ice Rod in there, and I was pretty upset about that one.
By the way, that is the worst room in this game.
Yeah, Chomp's going to be very fun to see our runners deal with. I mean, they can use the cape. That's going to make things easier, but normally trying to get through that room, they do 4 hearts of damage to Green Male Link, so that's a very deadly place to be.
Yeah, I've learned that room. I'm good at that room. I haven't dodged that room in a long time. I still hate that room.
It's also handily the one crossover, cameo that we see between the Mario world and Zelda world. Although we do see them also in Link's Awakening.
Because there's another enemy in Turtle Rock that's a Mario crossover.
Are you thinking the Pokey?
Yep.
It's interesting how that works out. They look very similar. I'm wondering if that was an intentional thing or if that's just, Nintendo doing their thing.
Well, Nintendo loves putting cameos of things, their other big games in their other games.
Oh, and yeah, that's right. There is a painting of Mario in some of the Kakariko village houses. Ooh, SayaDawn taking a fall from the crossing over for the bomb jump or the hook dash, or the hook shot to the big key chest. While I'm stumbling with words right now.
Yeah, I've definitely done that. You need to just watch that before you go for that hook shot.
The spark there is very unforgiving, so yeah, you'll see SayaDawn here taking a little bit more time to cross the gap. Having to chase around a little bit to get the dash off of it for the bonk, but we're clear.
Yep.
Well, so we saw Mothula before, but we didn't finish Mothula before. Let's see if Zunker's going to have a good fight here.
Yep. The only thing we know is that this can't be an item.
And would you look at that, we have simultaneous boss fights. Moldy on the left.
Oh, old Moldy.
I didn't think I would ever hear myself saying it, but the Moldy Moth combo is pretty good.
I never want to hear you say that again.
One thing our runners have to be careful about with this Mothula fight is that if you do any damage to Mothula knocking him into spikes, it overrides all the damage you do, so you have to try and keep Mothula close to the center. You can use the Fire Rod to knock Mothula off the spikes to get a little bit of separation, and that's usually the best way to deal with it. Meanwhile, SayaDawn takes advantage of a really nice movement technique. When you're holding your sword out, charging up a sword spin, and you're holding the opposite direction of a ledge, enemies can't knock you off of that ledge, so you can use it to kind of tank a couple of shots and get a little bit of invincibility trying to finish off Moldorm. You can still get hit from the side, though, so you got to be careful doing that.
I am not a fan of this, that flute. There was more that SayaDawn could have checked while they were up there.
Yeah, there's still a lot on the table up there, but I'm wondering, is this a Thieves' Town then? It could be Mothula again.
Well, it can't be Thieves' Town. They finished Thieves' Town.
Oh, right. Yeah, so we're going for another refight of Mothula here. Well, that seems to be the advantage here. I mean, we don't have a mirror anywhere in sight, and, Zunker has the clear dungeon advantage here.
I think
Seems-
Zunker's thinking. He's
processing. The hamster's rolling.
like, he's at the point of Turtle Rock or Ice Palace. Turtle Rock or Ice Palace. Which one is it going to be?
If you're gonna play Russian roulette, you might as well take the chamber that might actually not shoot you in the face is bad. And in this situation, it looks like I don't really even know where Zunker's heading. This is weird.
More overworld.
All right, so
Think?
what does that leave though?
There isn't any. Oh, he hasn't done purple chest.
Ah, and that's gonna be our. Oh, that was just a heart piece though, or heart container.
Yeah, it's nothing important. See, he's going to be left with that question again. Is it Turtle Rock or Ice Palace?
Dr. Time Warp, we actually already had Hammer in Thieves Town when we went through, so we've cleared it out.
It was a green crystal,
It was.
if I
It was a
recall
green
correctly.
Yeah, I'm thinking there's really nothing left in Overworld besides like the Graveyard Ledge, which we can't get. That's just about everything though.
I haven't seen that sprite before either. I did not know that if you stopped, he flipped over.
Oh yeah, did you know that you can throw that fish back to the pond, and you can also take them all the way to the bottle merchant?
I did. The bottle merchant, like, freaks out and gives you a lot of stuff if you give him a fish. Third sword is at Catfish. Fourth sword is on Lumberjack Ledge.
Or it's also a Game Boy Advance game too.
That's true.
Hey, at least we're not playing the GBA version of A Link to the Past. Then you have to hear Link going, yeah, all the time.
I've heard Andy thinks that the GBA version of this game is the better version.
Overrated. There's a couple things you can't do in that version, and it's not as fun. But it's also a perfectly good game, too. Like, I'm not trying to disparage it. If you play it on GBA, whoop-de-doo, but... I mean, we can't play Randomizer on it, so why would you?
That's a joke. Andy is not a fan of the GBA version at all.
Honestly, I would have been very surprised if you weren't joking about that, honestly.
It's a little strange that Zunker's not using and didn't use the Cane of Burna here.
I'm 1000% in the same camp as you on that one. It uses half as much magic as the cape does. Well, so what does that really leave us? I mean, besides dungeons, that's quite literally everything.
They've got to dip into those dungeons. It's the 3 in Ice Palace, or the however many you can find in Turtle Rock before the Dark Room. There's what?
There's 4 in the front half.
And 5 item locations in the back half.
I gotta think Turtle Rock is the right play though, because I mean, there's just so many items to check. Ice Palace, I mean,
is it?
You
No,
might
it's
end up
6.
finding it.
There's 6 before the Dark Room in Turtle Rock.
Oh yeah, okay. I misplaced the room in my mind. Yep, exactly. Because you can get to, yeah, because that dark room is basically a separation from the front and back.
Ped cannot be mirror because we know for a fact that mirror is required to get the lantern, and lantern's required to finish the pendant dungeons.
Well, so now that we are not sure whether we are in, whether we're in fine mode, go mode, or no mode at the end of this dungeon, I'm wondering how Zunker's going to approach it. Will we see a bomb jump? Will we see a full clear?
I'm in the camp of, if you have the cane, you do not bomb jump, unless you plan to open nothing.
Yeah, that makes sense.
Pet has not been checked. We have no idea what it is.
Though I guess at this point, we're just hoping it's not Silver's.
Yeah, Silver's is the only useful thing it could possibly be.
So it's looking pretty likely to be Couch Cash, folks.
I mean, there's 28 couch caches. It's pretty consistently couch cache anyway.
Hitaka making a great point. It could be the bug net of legend. I endorse that idea, actually. Well, so maybe that's what it is. Here's the lore explanation. So you're supposed to do the Swaganim strats. So you need to get the bug net. You gotta get all 3 pendants in order to be, worthy of the Swaganim net of doom. See, this still makes sense. Interesting to see Zunker actually going for the bomb jump. I want to say then that he's probably going to try and see if Cold Stare has it.
It might be just muscle memory, especially if you have any NMG experience in this game. It's pretty common to just know, hey, I'm in Ice Palace, better do the bomb jump.
That's second, third, and fourth, that notion. It's very hard to unlearn that. But on the off chance that Cold Stare does have the mirror, I mean, that would be the clutchest play possible.
I can't imagine not doing this entire dungeon before doing Cold Stare, especially considering it's very, very possible, even likely, that they will find all the items before getting to Cold Stare.
Yeah, it would be a bit of a time sink to have to dive back in here, so I mean, there's really no good reason to go to Cold Stare first, unless, you find the item, but that's what it appears to be doing for both of these runners. I have to feel like SayaDawn's probably going to do exactly that with the routing here. Oh, yep. They may be going to do the around the world strats with it.
Yep.
Okay, and then with the Cane of Samaria, that doesn't matter if they have the block down. Okay, that makes sense. These two have had powder for so long, I almost forgot they had it.
Hey Zunkers, this room is easier with boots. Remember, you have them.
What are those, anyway?
They're these things you put on your feet, make you go fast.
Yo, but SayaDawn getting the nice bomb jump to skip, the whole dropping down the whole thing there. Interesting to see if the routing will pay off here.
I mean, if the mirror's in here, it will. Because, well, it might.
It's definitely not terribly costly as far as time goes to get Desert Palace. I mean, a difference in Ganon's Tower can definitely be made up for that amount of time lost, because we have the items to kill Lammolas quick.
Indeed we do. every time I powder a anti-fairy that I know's under a pot, I get weird looks from my husband. It's very weird.
What for?
Like, how did you know that was going to be a fairy? Do just some pots turn into fairies? And the answer is technically yes. However,
The answer is we just do not like bunny beams, and we're on a mission to exterminate every last single one of them from Hyrule. I mean, you know, let's just do it. Hey, there's our vanilla big key. To Dario and Chad, you can also powder the bunny beams as long as they haven't moved yet. So that's an important thing. If the bunny beams move, those yellow things that turn into bunnies, you can no longer powder them at all.
so if you're SayaDawn, I think you're hoping that the big chest has the last item.
I mean, yeah, we're definitely in the right spot for it.
I don't know why they're bomb jumping here. Are they going to go south from here?
I wish I could answer, but I really don't know. I feel like both of them... No, they haven't skipped the chest after the big key, so... Yeah, it's looking like either Cold Stairs got something here. I didn't have my item count right, but... Yeah, it's got to be Cold Stairs.
Yeah.
Cold Stairs got something.
Saya has not iced tea'd.
Well, Zunker can do a really interesting strategy here with Cold Stairs. Some of you may not know about this. If you line up sword beams with your fire rod, you can actually get double hits with the fire rod and save half of your magic for the fight.
It's not necessarily super easy to do.
No, but definitely something I encourage opening up the practice hack to try, because in a pinch, if you have full health, you can definitely do that. I would say it's probably even more important if you have a lower sword level.
Specifically Master Sword, because you won't have beams for an even lower sword level.
Yeah, good point, good point. But with that, we get a quarter of a heart, not a whole lot to work with, one ventricle, that's about it. And with that, we are going to head to Turtle Rock to find that mirror.
Pendant Turtle Rock is not always required, but goodness, it feels like it sometimes.
Yeah, I think the worst part about this whole Ice Palace business with both of our runners here is that they did the bomb jump that would have saved them time. They just ended up checking the entire dungeon instead. So I don't know how that all panned out for them. It looks like SayaDawn got the worst of it, though, because SayaDawn was catching up going into this dungeon.
It is chic. I have not seen the bunny sprite yet. That's amazing.
Shout outs to the people who do all the sprite work for the randomizer community. You guys are fantastic. You know, Hitaka,
sorry,
you might be a little
alert.
late on the Zelda chic thing. That's a kind of an older one.
The real question is, what would happen if Zelda was a girl?
Asking the hard-hitting questions here.
Indeed.
I don't know. Do you think Ganon would still try to, like, you know, take, you know, the Triforce of Power from Link?
I don't know. Anyway. Zunker has not entered Turtle Rock yet. And he's going the wrong way. He doesn't have the mirror. He has no way to get into Turtle Rock right now. Because he hasn't opened it up.
But I think he may have missed a chest in here.
No, he went back for that chest. He's going to have to save and quit and then walk all the way back.
That's brutal. In the meantime, though, SayaDawn is one hug away from death against Cold Stare. This would be a really costly death here.
The key to this fight is just keep moving.
Yep, and another useful tip is when one of these puffballs are kind of, dying or exploding. Every boss in this game is made of C4, by the way. You get a lot of lag on the screen because the SNES can't really keep up with that. So you can use that to position yourself better for the next slashes. Ooh.
That was, if not one swipe away from the end, it was very close.
That's a double whammy because as of SayaDawn's just a moment ago, that was the last item of the dungeon, so at this point it seems like SayaDawn's electing to take a gamble here. But they are out of magic too, so that's double rough.
Yeah, they have to leave. And the question is, do they go to Turtle Rock knowing that there's more items there?
If it were me, I would, but that's tough to guess because, they already committed to doing Ice Palace in the first place.
So that death might be a blessing in disguise. If they go to Turtle Rock, they'll actually save time on the fanfare.
That's true. It's small amount, but anything counts here, particularly if they choose to go to Turtle Rock. It could be the opposite. It's double-edged sword. It could be even worse, but it looks like we're going to head to Turtle Rock. So SayaDawn emerging unscathed from the Pendant Dungeon that was a complete time waste.
Looks like they're electing to do Spike Cave first. So these 4 bushes have a pretty good chance of having either a heart or a fairy. And you can just mirror over and over again until they have what you want.
It's easily the highest bush spawn in the entire game, so that's definitely a reliable place to get health. Well, here comes the Spike Cave of Disappointment. Interestingly enough, Turtle Rock here is not really the end of our journey. We still have a couple of dungeons left, that we still have to clear out. So our runners may actually still converge, even if Zunker does find the mirror here, which seems to be a foregone conclusion. There's really no other place for it. Here we get to see Zunker taking advantage of hookshot, or maybe not, maybe just choosing to just dodge the rollers entirely, but you can use the hookshot to get invincibility frames while Link is in the hookshot anim. Oh, there it is!
Very early mirror, and we are out of there. We're not quite in go mode, but we are about to be.
Yep, that's right, chat. This is no mode.
It is the shortest no mode I have ever seen. Because both of our runners are going to very quickly.
In fact, if you look in the mirror, it might be gone already.
Oh goodness, SayaDawn decided to leave Turtle Rock behind.
Now, on the bright side, besides potentially the time loss of, having to do this twice, this is still going to be required, so this isn't a gigantic time loss or anything, but we definitely want to find that mirror first. I think that's really priority here over clearing dungeons.
No mode, KNOW, is where we know where all the items required for go mode are.
But hey, I mean, that's all in the past now. We're in go mode.
We're in go mode.
Now there are other places that our runners can check. I mean, if they're really looking for silvers or any other safeties, we haven't found any mail upgrades, and we definitely know where that last sword is. But at this point, there's nothing really stopping them from just clearing everything out.
In this particular case, the runners actually knew where the items were as well. Usually that's not the case.
Now, the really nice thing for Zunker here is that it is very straightforward. Oh, no. Takes a death, unfortunately. Zunker's got to be careful because with this lead, it's very easy to let that fall through the cracks. Just like, let's just say he makes it all the way to Vitreous and dies. That's a really big time sink. And that's the kind of stuff that SayaDawn needs to get back into this. A good execution can make this a close race still.
Yep. Good execution will win out over routing basically every time, if it's good enough.
Of course, there is always that one seed, and everybody has one.
Yep.
I still get pretty jaded when I find Hammer in its vanilla spot. Well, looks like it's time for round 2 with Lammolis with a much better sword and fire rod. Kemps made a mention of it earlier about how sprites can there's only so many sprites that can be active on the screen at a time. Lammolis' rock attacks that go in different directions are also the exact same thing. When you're having one of them explode, the other ones will not actually shoot out those projectiles. So you can get very close and get some spins in if you have an eye out for that the entire time. Well, interestingly enough, we have a tie with our crystals now. Zunker and SayaDawn have completed basically the same amount. The only real big difference here is that Zunker is going to be able to complete a dungeon first, while SayaDawn still has to find that mirror.
I don't know what they're doing here. They've completed both these dungeons, and I think they've gotten all these overworld locations as well.
Everything I can think of, at least. Oh, no, we don't have the mirror yet.
Have they done digging game?
It's possible we haven't seen that yet, but I can't really think of anything else in this direction.
Yeah, it's got to be that.
Well, that's not going to bring a whole lot of joy to SayaDawn's screen. However, Zunker is kind of trapped with a bunch of these little jellies here. Bunny Beams really put him in a weird spot. We're going to see if the Vitreous fight is pretty smooth, but with Cane of Burna, Cape, and a lot of health, this should be a pretty smooth fight.
It looks like we're going to see run strats.
That is a lot of dead eyeballs in one set of frames.
Yep.
So because we have the Tempered Sword, it's definitely still valid to do sword slashes, but if you have the arrows, I definitely recommend trying to finish off the last couple of them with arrows, since you can just pop 8 into Vitreous' eyeball here to finish him off. You can save yourself a menu, or at least use the item when it's useful. Very clean fight, though.
Yep, absolutely.
I believe we only took 1 heart of damage from the goo, so that's definitely a good place to be. Looks like SayaDawn was able to avoid too much trouble through the Waffle House drive-thru.
Mirror is behind the 4-lantern room in Turtle Rock. And it looks like that's where SayaDawn is headed right now.
Which may just save the run for SayaDawn. Well, there still are a couple of things that can trip up Zunker from having this lead. There is still Helmosaur King. I don't imagine that Argus is going to be the hardest part of this, but between that and potentially Ganon's Tower, that's going to be what SayaDawn's going to need to see in order to catch up some of this lead, because execution, there's a decent enough gap in the time where, being good at this game is just not going to be enough, so SayaDawn's got to, have some pretty flawless dungeons here.
Yeah. Argus is not only the easiest boss in the Dark World, but I think he's the easiest boss in this game. So I do not see any issues there, but Helmosaur King is not easy and is not free.
And the RNG can be really ridiculous. Sometimes you just get a fight where you get no fireballs, sometimes you get 7 in a row.
And those fireball thingies hurt.
The funny thing about this on Zunker's screen is that this is actually pretty similar to what you look like when you're doing this in NMG.
Yeah. The only difference is, apparently Zunker wants that, those silvers.
Well, he finds an arrow.
Close. We'll need to be more specific when he wishes for something.
You were so close. I definitely agree with checking the stuff that's on the way, though. I mean, silvers does save a fair amount of time in the Ganon fight. It makes it a lot more secure. But, I mean, I wouldn't go to the left side in this dungeon, though. That would be a big waste.
I think anything that takes as much time as they... as much time as it would take to check Pyramid Fairy is not worth doing.
I'd agree on that one, which will be available to our runners, but there's really no reason that anybody would sink the time into it. I mean, at that point, you might as well go Aghanim just to get the Butter Sword. Ooh, SayaDawn taking some rough shots there with the Lynels, but that should be a convenient death warp anyway. It's going to get us closer to the flute locations we need to be at anyway.
Yeah. They're probably going to go to Mountain Cave, go up, get their lantern, and they will be in go mode.
And at an hour and 54 minutes and approximately 20 seconds, we have both runners in go mode. Time to see who can clear these dungeons out the fastest. Zunker with a pretty hefty head start.
Yep. About a crystal and a half, almost 2 full crystals ahead. The SayaDawn is going to go ahead and do pod first. That's a fantastic position for that ice rod, considering it's basically impossible for you to get it and have to do Turtle Rock. Like, I know I want one of the trolliest things that can happen to a runner to happen. That doesn't mean I want trolly things to happen in general.
Looks like Zunker got really badly zoned out by this little water monster here. Clearly the best defender in all of Hyrule.
Turtle Rock is not required, so this is not a Turtle Rock double dip.
Now I'm really curious to see what the Silver Arrow message from Ganon's going to be.
I mean, my money's on the words "my tower" coming out of his mouth. Considering how much of this game we've cleared.
And all things being considered, we did get through quite a lot of it for only being about 2 hours or so in. You know, there's quite a lot checked in that time. Both of our runners have pretty much exhausted everything.
Troll item was the mirror in Turtle Rock.
Well, that's 6 of 7 for Zunker, so Zunker's going to head to Palace of Darkness and then make a quick trip up the mountain for Ganon's tower, but that's going to be all he needs to do to finish this out. SayaDawn, unfortunately, is one heart shy of being able to save a menu here.
Yeah, if you have sword beams, you do not have to go into the menu to get an item for this.
You could definitely do worse than having red meringue for that, though. That's pretty handy.
Yep. It's, I think, the fastest menu-wise item that you can get to that would be able to do that.
Having this Tempered Sword is going to be really nice for Helmasaur King, though, because the slashes in the second phase are really where the big danger is. It's pretty easy to dodge the first phase attacks, but because they only come one at a time. With this extra health, too, SayaDawn should have a pretty good fight here.
Yep. And I will say good luck to SayaDawn.
Just as a reminder, chat, it takes 17 smashes of the helmet here, or the face mask, whatever you want to call it, with the hammer to destroy it. You can also do it with 4 bombs if you'd like. And then afterwards, you just need good 3 or 4 slashes to knock off the remaining health of Helmasaur King.
I believe it's 4 slashes with the Tempered Sword. Or 2 gold sword slashes.
SayaDawn getting really close here, though. Ouch! That's rough.
Like we said, this is not a free fight. This is hard.
What happened to SayaDawn there is Helmasaur King decided to start marching forward, and it's really hard to line up your shot there. One thing that you may end up having some success with trying to do this fight is you may want to face upwards, hold your sword out, and then use the sword charge to kind of strafe around the room a bit. That'll help you line up your sword spin or just a regular slash a little bit more reliably without getting hugged there.
It also makes your hammer... the distance the hammer hits slightly longer.
Now, if you're a madman or woman out there and you want to try the hammer strats in the second phase, for one, I wish you luck, but two, that you have to do that. If you don't have your sword outstretched, you'll never hit that hitbox. I think it's technically possible, but I mean, you'll die doing it.
Unless, of course, you have no sword. I don't know that extends the hurt box of your hammer, though, if you don't have a sword.
You wouldn't be able to hold it out. Like, you wouldn't have a sword charge animation.
You can hold in one position if you don't have a sword. Like, you can strafe just like normal.
No, but I'm thinking that without a sword, you wouldn't have the extension of the hitbox at all.
Yeah, I don't think so either.
Well, Zunker's having a pretty good fight so far. Hasn't taken too many hits. And that'll do it. That's a very clean. Well, it's almost perfect wrap up of Helmasaur, and had pretty decent RNG too. Only had to dodge 1 or 2 fireballs.
So that is 7 crystals. So we're going into Ganon's Tower. That means we're playing our Ganon's Tower guessing game. So there are 22 chests that can have that Ganon's Tower big key. Let's get some guesses onto where it can be. Where do you think it's going to be, Yuta?
Me personally, Kems, I am a belligerent fan of Bob's chest.
That's completely fair. I always guess 17.
I'm trying to think of my numbers here. If they went Dark Magician strats, if they took like the 2 chests on the right side and then went left, what number would Bob's chest be? I'm trying to think. There's 4.
That's 4. Wait, Dark Magician strats is the 4 chests on the left side and then go right.
Yeah, I'm sorry, I got that mixed up. But if they took the right and then went left, so that'd be 2, then the torch, so that's 3, 7, 8. I think it's chest number like 13, Bob's chest. Well, either way, that's the one I'm claiming.
It's 14, I believe. 17 is the last chest after the Armos Knight 2.
Now, wouldn't it be wild if it was Tile Room and Zunker had some issues finding it?
The
Yo,
big thing.
and SayaDawn did the 2-heart finish. Nice.
Well done, SayaDawn. You have 2 more bosses to go. But you can go mode both of these dungeons. It depends. If you do Dark Magician strats, do the 5 chests on the left side and then go full right side, Bob's chest is actually earlier than 14, if I remember correctly.
Well, we do have the right side, the free room check. Let's see what we have in our first 2. It could be a God Tower. No such luck today.
There's 3 with nothing. Anyway, while Zunker's going through the easy part of Ganon's Tower, SayaDawn is going through what is probably the not-so-easy part of Mire.
You know, there is another thing to kind of consider here. Neither of our runners have found a mail upgrade, and Ganon's Tower is not forgiving. It's very likely that our runners, will, at least one of them, will run into some kind of near-death or death scenario in this dungeon.
Absolutely.
Alright, so I believe that's 8 chests so far.
I've counted 7. This is number 8.
Yes, that's correct. That one's an 8 with a B. So I think we found 3 bottles then.
The pressure might be getting to Zunker.
Yeah, this is a very nervous place to be. Keep in mind, folks, our runners don't know where the other person is, so at 2 hours in, you got to be thinking that your opponent's pretty close, particularly when Mirror was in some place like Turtle Rock that was available relatively early in the seed, just not something that we really wanted to go to in the first place.
That's 9. We're about to get 10, 11, 12, and 13 here. This is the other thing that you don't see in any speedrun, is the randomizer room. Called so because nothing but randomizer uses it.
Yeah, I mean, what is this room? I've never... I'm just kidding. But yeah, you would never ever go here. Like, there's nothing here for you in an NMG run. And chest 10 was it.
And Zunker gets very, very rewarded for checking the rest of those chests.
Holy cow! He got everything he needs to just go right upstairs. I mean, at this point, there's nothing stopping him.
Yeah, I can't imagine him checking a single chest after this. Unless he wants to do it for the memes.
Yeah, SayaDawn taking a rough death in the back of Misery Mire with Vitreous. That's going to be really tough to recover from. Seems SayaDawn may be contemplating their fate.
I don't know how that arrow didn't hit. It seemed to have gone straight through that mimic.
I've learned in this community there's a couple things you just say in these scenarios, and you say, game's weird, man. Game's weird.
Game's very weird. Like, this is not easy to be doing, especially in front of all the people watching.
Well, I don't have the official race channel available to me at the moment, but looking at the timer being stopped, it appears that SayaDawn has taken a forfeit on this race. You know, everybody in chat, please, you know, wish SayaDawn GG for that race. That was very entertaining to watch. And in the meantime, we still have Zunker, who does have to finish the race before being awarded a victory.
But yeah, we are not done here. We have the rest of the gauntlet to go. Called the gauntlet because, not because it's super easy, but because it is not free and very hard to do consistently. They're actually basically have the same equipment that they would have if they were doing NMG, now that I think about it. Plus the silvers, of course.
And these silvers are going to pay off dramatically here in Ganon's Tower. This is probably the most important place in the game that you'd ever have it in any scenario. We have the refights with our boss enemies. You know, we already had the Armos. Well, we didn't have to deal with Armos, but that would be a really nice place to use it. Here with Lamolus, it's going to help out significantly to get one-hit kills.
It takes 2 spin slashes to kill these guys as well. With the Tempered Sword.
Tempered Sword, very viable strategy as well.
Also doesn't waste arrows, which might be an issue, depending on how confident Zunker is in his Ganon fight.
Well, we look good on magic. We have a lot of arrows to work with. This is looking pretty clean to finish up the rest of the Gan Tower without too much effort. Usually this would be a part of the dungeon where you'd have not so many hearts, so Zunker's doing pretty well to get through this gauntlet without taking damage.
Proper practice when someone forfeits is to just let them finish. It's very likely Zunker knows that SayaDawn is forfeit. At this point, time does not matter. All that matters is that Zunker finishes.
Which, nicely enough, we are almost at the end of the seed. SayaDawn was not very far behind, just had some, unfortunate rough boss deaths. That's a very discouraging thing to have happen to you, so, I don't fault you at all for forfeiting in this. This is the first race of many. Just as a reminder, folks, our runners right now are doing their, Swiss rounds, so this is the first match of 7 potential matches before we get to the end of the Swiss phase. Also want to shout out to the Swaganim net. The Swaganim net of Legend was actually found just in time, potentially, to fight Aghanim. Well, Kems, my theory about the Swaganim Net of Legend wasn't exactly accurate, but it is in the dungeon where you would fight that boss. This would be a good time to have that Illuminati sound, or like the X-Files soundtrack.
I have no idea what the X-Files soundtrack sounds like. Anyway, let's get some geometry on. I wonder how confident our runner is with Swaganim.
You think we're going to catch any triples with this one?
I think the only person that can triple with Swagnet is probably Sakura Tsubasa.
I don't know, maybe you'll give it a swing. You'll see a little bit of desync here between the different Aghanim after images. The longer this fight goes, the harder it gets to actually get the multiple hits. Well, we have a net. We can pick up a fairy just south of the pyramid. We do have a blue potion. Zunker should be pretty close to getting this done. Yeah, it looks like with that blue potion, we're just going to dive right in. I gotta say, Camps, you were absolutely 1000% right about Silver's being in his tower. Zunker's got to be careful here. He doesn't have a fairy, and one hug's going to do 4 hearts, so really can't afford that.
With blue potion, I think the cape makes a lot of sense here.
Yeah, it makes sense to do this first. Ooh. And with that, it looks like we're going to restock a little bit.
Looks like he's going to go down the stairs before using that mirror, which makes sense.
And then, of course, if he wants a fairy, this is a good time to grab one. Unfortunately, we will not be seeing B strats on Ganon. Rip B strats.
I guess Zunker does not know you can talk to the potion cashier to get a full health refill.
Could also have been flaunting all of this fat Hyrule cash stacks that he's been collecting throughout the run.
He does have fat stacks, to be fair. Yes, rip to the B strats, unfortunately.
Over the years, there have been some pretty strange ways to distract or beat Ganon. I don't know if I think the net or the bottle the net in this game, or the bottle in Ocarina of Time, or the fishing pole in Twilight Princess. I don't know which one's my favorite yet.
I didn't even know about the fishing pole in Twilight Princess.
Yeah, he just like straight up doesn't know what to do, and you can get some easy like free hits on him. But here in the Ganon fight with Tempered Sword, we need to do 12 slashes for each of these phases. So phase 1's already done here, phase 2 is the fire bats. Very important to get these in the first cycle. Getting them 2 1 cycles in a row, we call it a 1-in-1, is an optimal way to do this fight because most of your risk comes from those first 2 phases. With that, we move on to phase 3. Ganon's warps here are predetermined in the randomizer, so if both of our runners run the same fight, they'd be looking at the same warps. With this, we just need to do a sword slash as fast as possible to prevent fire bats from spawning concentrically around him. Once we have all 4 of these 4 patterns down, we can then do the last phase, which we do have silver arrows for. We do this very fast. We don't even have to worry about torch glitch here.
Very, very close, but did not hit that. If you don't know where Ganon is, it's probably best to sit in the middle.
Interesting fact about that, if you get hit by those fire bats, they're going to send you in the opposite direction that you are pressing with your D-pad. So if you're by the edge of the arena, you literally don't want to press away from the ledge. All right, 3 more to go.
1 more to go.
I can't count. GG to Zunker to the rescue.
GG to Zunker, GG to SayaDawn. A lot of bad beats in her run. But let's see if we can get Zunker in here. That was a seed. I think the only upside to that seed was the fact that you could do Swamp Palace in one go mode.
Yeah, that had to have been pretty nice. And speaking of the subject of the race, we are joined by Zunker to the rescue. Zunker, GG on that race.
Thank you so much. That was a seed, wasn't it?
Well, I couldn't see behind myself because there wasn't a mirror in sight.
Jesus, I know. I'm glad I decided not to mess around with the overworld much longer and just went straight to Turok. Not that I had much left to begin with.
Yeah, I'm curious to see what the item collection rate for this seed will be.
Well,
Yeah,
of course,
no
I need
kid-
you to go further on the screen to know that, of course.
Yeah, my bad on that one. I thought I hit it already. I forgot.
Not a big deal.
Well, so Zunker, this puts you up to 1-0. You got to be pretty excited about your next week.
I am, and especially with the way I started, I made so many just absolutely stupid mistakes, and yeah, that was bad.
Is there anything about this run that you you thought was particularly interesting? You know, other than Turtle Rock having the important item again, as it feels like it happens all the time.
Yeah, Turtle Rock always seems to have something special. Not really. I mean, I had green. I thought I was gonna have to do Silverless Game, and I'm glad I was in the same room as the boss key. That was cool.
What a great call.
Yeah, you got very, very rewarded by opening those 3 extra chests.
Yeah, I mean, I've never done it before. I was gonna attempt it, just kind of see what would happen. I knew I probably wasn't gonna do very good, so I was probably gonna go find them afterward. But I hit them, like, yes, and I got blue potion, I'm like, heck yes!
So I did notice you doing a lot of interesting strats. You had the Cane of Burna in Spike Cave, and you chose to use the cape instead. Was there a reason for that?
I forgot I had Cape of Myrna. I had a lot of bad, quite frankly, bad strategies. My nerves got the best of me, especially early on, and I just kind of made a lot of dumb decisions and bad deaths.
Yeah, that definitely happens. It is difficult to be on this side of the camera. Give our runners a follow. They put on a great show, and it's not easy to be up for being restreamed for this game, especially if you're not super confident in it.
No, I mean, yeah, it was awesome, and appreciate being restreamed. Appreciate you guys in commentary, guys. That was all. Thank you. I'm sure you guys were awesome. Obviously, that was rough. I'm sorry to see that SayaDawn had their forfeit. I don't know what exactly happened with them, but I can only imagine probably the mirror or something.
It was a couple of really frustrating boss deaths. You know, like when you get to Vitreous and, you know, have a death there, it's demoralizing. You have to go all the way back through, you know, Misery Mire. So, you know, it's rough that it worked out that way, but I'm sure we're going to see a great race out of SayaDawn next week.
Absolutely.
Oh, yeah, absolutely. He's a good runner.
The last thing I want to ask is, are there any strats you're going to be practicing before your race next week? Is there any strats that you don't know or are not confident in that you want to get better at?
Can I just say all of them? No. Probably Silverless Game, because I was so close to that. Just getting better with my route running and figuring out how I want to route things better, and just kind of working on my nerves a bit. And because I made a lot of dumb decisions because I wasn't thinking clearly.
That's completely fair. It was a pleasure to watch you. A pleasure to watch you and SayaDawn in this game. I don't have any other questions. Do you have anything to say, Yuta?
I think that'll do it for me. So while we're pretty much the last race on the channel today, so what I do want to call everybody's attention to is the gigantically overstuffed schedule we have tomorrow for races. So if you wanted to watch more Randomizer, well, guess what? There's a whole lot more for you to see. Just to give you a sense of it, starting at 9 a.m. Eastern Standard Time tomorrow, all the way till late in the night, every hour on the hour, you're going to have races on all the Speed Gaming family of network channels. So I recommend you follow Speed Gaming, this channel, all the way through 5, and then, of course, the Link to the Past Randomizer channel through 4. You will find all kinds of content there. So I'm really excited to have a chance to commentate with you, Kems. I appreciate you sharing comms with me. Congratulations again to Zunker2therescue. And I think with that, that's about it for us tonight.
Awesome. Again, thank you guys for the restream. It's an honor to do it on Speed Gaming on the original. I was pretty stoked when I saw that. That got me a little nervous. And yeah, guys, make sure you follow the commentators too. This is an awesome event. This is my first race ever, and I'm really excited for how it went and how it's going to go for the rest of this time out.
Thanks for joining the community. And I think with that, that's going to be us. I hope everyone has a good night.
Good night, folks. Thanks.